All right, diving into a case that really shook things up back in 1986.
Oh,
The murder of Helle Crafts.
wow.
It all starts in this quiet town, Newtown, Connecticut.
Huh?
Hell, she's a flight attendant living what seems like, the picture-perfect life.
Right, right.
But as we're going to see, things aren't always what they seem.
Appearances can be deceiving for sure.
Yeah, so Helle vanishes during a massive snowstorm.
Oh, wow.
Her husband, Richard Crafts, he claims she's just gone off to visit her family in Denmark.
Hmm.
Sounds kind of plausible, right?
At first, I guess.
But the details of his story, well, they start to unravel pretty quickly.
Oh, really?
And Helle's friends, they knew something was wrong.
Right.
They reach out to her mother over in Denmark,
Yeah.
only to find out that, well, she's perfectly healthy
Oh, wow.
and hasn't spoken to Helle in weeks.
So that's when the alarm bells start going off.
Right. And, back then, this was before cell phones.
Oh, yeah.
Easy international communication.
Yeah.
So for Helle to just disappear, no word to anyone, super out of character.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and there were other red flags.
Okay.
Helle had actually confided in some friends about her marriage, which was, well, it was troubled.
Right.
She even hired a private investigator,
What?
Keith Mayo, to look into her husband's infidelity.
Well, hold on. She hired a PI. That's a big sign that things were not good.
He's not picture perfect at all.
No, definitely not.
No.
Suggests some serious problems beneath the surface.
For sure, and Helle's concerns went even beyond the infidelity.
Oh, really?
She even warned friends. She said, if anything happens to me, don't assume it's an accident.
Oh, my gosh. That's a chilling premonition.
It is, and it sadly proved true.
Wow.
Okay, so we've got a missing woman,
Mm-hmm.
suspicious husband,
Right.
and this growing sense of unease among Helle's friends.
Yeah.
What happened next?
Well, this private investigator, Keith Mayo, he becomes absolutely convinced that Richard is involved in Helle's disappearance.
Right.
He pushes the police relentlessly, I gotta say, to investigate further.
Wow.
He even went so far as to search the Crafts' home himself.
That's dedication.
It is.
So what did he find?
Well, he didn't find any, concrete evidence immediately.
Okay.
He did pick up on some disturbing details.
Look what?
He learned from the nanny that there was, get this, a blood-stained section of carpet in Helle and Richard's bedroom
Okay.
that had recently been removed.
Hold on, wait. Blood-stained carpet. That's a huge red flag.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Big one.
So what did Richard say about that?
Well, when they questioned him about it, he just claimed that he took the old carpet to the landfill.
Okay.
But for investigators, this was just yet another suspicious detail
Right.
in a rapidly growing list.
So we've got the missing carpet.
Yeah.
This inconsistent story about Helle's trip
Uh-huh.
and a private investigator who's, well, he's convinced that something terrible's happened.
Right.
Where did the investigation go from there?
Well, investigators, they started digging into Richard's activities.
Wow.
In those days after Helle disappeared.
Right.
They went through his credit card records very meticulously and found some purchases.
What did he buy?
Okay, let's see. There was new bedding,
Right.
a freezer, a washing machine.
Right.
And this is where it gets really interesting.
Oh, boy.
A wood chipper.
A wood chipper.
Yeah.
That's not your everyday purchase.
No, it's not.
What on earth would he need a wood chipper for?
That was the question investigators are asking.
Yeah.
It was unusual, to say the least.
Especially during a snowstorm.
Exactly. It's not like he needed it for yard work.
No, not at all.
No.
So the wood chipper purchase, that's a pretty big clue,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Significant.
Did they find anything else that tied Richard to Helle's disappearance?
They did, actually.
I
A
know.
crucial break in the case came from a seemingly unrelated source.
Okay.
The snowplow driver.
Right.
He reported seeing someone operating a wood chipper on a bridge over Lake Zoar.
Wait a minute. A wood chipper on a bridge over a lake
Yeah.
in the middle of a snowstorm.
Yeah, during the same storm when Helle vanished.
That's more than a little suspicious.
Do you think?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
So they showed the snowplow driver a photo lineup,
Mm-hmm.
and he identified Richard.
He did.
So now they have a witness placing Richard with this wood chipper at a lake.
Right.
At the same time, Helle disappears.
Yeah.
Not looking good for him.
Not at all.
Nope. So the focus shifts to Lake Zoar.
It does.
Divers, forensic teams, they're brought in to search the area.
Mm-hmm.
This has got to be the turning point, right?
This is it.
What did they find?
So the search of Lake Zoar was tough,
Yeah.
grueling. They were sifting through debris, icy water,
Oh, wow.
but their efforts paid off.
Okay.
They found bone fragments,
Oh, no.
hair, pieces of fabric
Okay.
that matched clothing Helle was known to wear.
Wow.
Even a piece of a fingernail
Oh, gosh.
with traces of pink nail polish that matched a bottle from her home.
That's horrifying.
It was a gruesome scene,
Yeah.
but it provided the evidence they needed.
Right, but this was 1986. DNA analysis wasn't as advanced.
Right.
So they needed to find another way to conclusively link these remains to Helle.
They did.
How'd they do that?
This is where the amazing work of Dr. Henry Lee comes in.
Dr. Henry Lee, he's a legend in forensics.
He is a renowned forensic scientist. He was the chief criminalist for the state of Connecticut at the time.
Wow.
So Dr. Lee used all sorts of cutting-edge forensic techniques to analyze the evidence.
Okay.
Microscopic hair analysis, fiber comparisons, even dental record comparisons.
Wow, so they were able to conclusively prove that the remains belonged to Helle.
They were.
So even without DNA testing, they were able to build a pretty strong case.
Yeah, the physical evidence, the expert analysis, witness testimony, it all came together.
But the story doesn't end there, does it? There's still that chainsaw they found in the lake.
You're right, that chainsaw, it became another crucial piece of the puzzle. Well, the serial number had been removed.
Oh, of course.
But investigators, they were able to restore it.
Wow.
And trace it back to a purchase made by, you guessed it, Richard Crafts.
He tried to cover his tracks, but it backfired.
It seems that way.
Yeah, like he was leaving a trail of breadcrumbs leading right back to him.
It certainly appears that way.
Yeah.
And with all this evidence, well, the net was closing in. He really thought he could outsmart everyone.
Right.
But he messed up, made some big mistakes.
Yeah, so after months of this investigation, they've got all these pieces pointing right at Richard Crafts. What happens next?
Well, on Christmas Day, 1986.
Oh, wow.
Richard's in Florida on vacation with his kids.
Okay.
And the police, they finally catch up with him, place him under arrest.
What a Christmas present, huh? Arrested for murdering your wife. This case, it blew up in the media, right?
Oh, absolutely. Nationwide attention, even internationally.
I can see why. It's got everything, you know? Beautiful flight attendant vanishes, perfect husband's the suspect, and then there's the wood chipper.
Yeah, the wood chipper, it really captured the public's imagination.
It's both fascinating and horrifying. So tell me, what were the trials like?
Okay, so the first trial, it was in New London, Connecticut. It went on forever, months. They called hundreds of witnesses, tons of evidence presented.
Wow.
The prosecution, they laid out their case step by step using all the evidence, expert testimony, witness accounts to reconstruct what happened leading up to Helle's murder.
So they had the carpet, the wood chipper, the chainsaw, the driver, the nanny. Did they ever find an actual murder weapon?
No, they never found a specific weapon.
Okay.
But remember the bone fragments from the lake?
Yeah.
Dr. Lee, he analyzed those bone edges, and they showed signs of being, processed by a machine. Consistent with a wood chipper.
So even without the weapon, they had enough to connect him to the crime.
The forensic evidence was strong.
Right.
Plus all the other circumstantial evidence, it was pretty powerful.
But that first trial, it ended in a mistrial, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. After 17 days of deliberation.
17 days.
The jury was totally deadlocked, couldn't agree.
Wow.
One juror just wouldn't budge, so mistrial.
I bet that was frustrating for everyone involved.
Oh, yeah. Huge setback for the prosecution and, of course, for Helle's family and friends.
Absolutely. So what happened next?
They scheduled a second trial.
Okay.
This time in Norwalk, Connecticut.
Right.
They wanted to get away from all the media attention from the first trial.
Makes sense. So the prosecution, they're ready to do this whole thing again.
Yep, determined to get justice for Helle.
Did they have any new evidence this time?
Mostly the same evidence, but they presented it differently, more streamlined, focused on the most important parts.
Interesting.
They also really highlighted Helle's premonition.
Right, her warning to her friends.
Exactly. If anything happens to me, don't assume it was an accident.
It's chilling, speaks to the fear she was living with.
It does.
And her words ended up helping bring her killer to justice.
In a way, yeah.
So what was the verdict in this second trial?
On November 20th, 1989.
Okay.
The jury, after a much shorter deliberation, found Richard Crafts guilty.
Guilty of what?
Murder in the first degree.
Wow.
He got 50 years in prison, no parole.
50 years, that's a long time.
It is.
It must have been such a relief for Helle's loved ones to finally see justice done.
Oh, yeah. It was a long and difficult road, but in the end, justice prevailed.
This case, it really gripped the whole nation.
Yeah.
What about Newtown, Connecticut? How did it impact them?
Devastating. This was a small town. People felt safe.
Right. Quiet community.
And then this happens, shatters that sense of security.
Shows that darkness can hide anywhere.
Exactly, even in the most peaceful places.
Did the case have any impact on a larger scale, beyond just this shock and horror?
Absolutely, it became a landmark case in forensic science.
How so?
It showed how important it is to collect evidence carefully, have expert analysis, and do scientific reconstruction, even for the most complex crimes.
It really highlighted the importance of Dr. Lee's work, didn't it?
Absolutely. His expertise was crucial.
Oh.
He could analyze the tiniest pieces of evidence and explain it clearly. That was key to getting the conviction.
And he went on to become a leading voice in forensics. His work has had a huge impact on the field.
Huge impact.
It's incredible how much forensic science has advanced since 1986.
It really is. The technology, DNA analysis is so common now.
Right.
But the Helle Crafts case, it reminds us that even back then, dedicated investigators and brilliant scientists could use the tools they had to find the truth.
It's true. This case also brought attention to domestic violence.
It became a tragic example of the hidden dangers of abuse.
Yeah.
And it brought much-needed attention to the issue.
It's so important to listen to people who are afraid and believe them.
Absolutely. And Helle's premonition, if anything happens to me, don't assume it was an accident.
Right.
Those words became a rallying cry.
They did.
We can't ignore the signs of abuse.
We can't.
Helle's case, it also led to changes in how law enforcement handles these situations.
In what way?
They started emphasizing thorough investigations of domestic violence, even when there's no obvious evidence of a crime right away.
That's so important.
It is.
It's heartbreaking that it took Helle's death to bring about these changes, but in a way, it ensures that her story keeps making a difference, right?
It does. Helle's story, it's a reminder that we have to be vigilant, advocate for those who might be in danger.
Yeah, for sure. It's a story that really sticks with you. What do you think is the lasting legacy of this case?
I think it's more than just a tragic story. It's a wake-up call.
How so?
It shows the reality of domestic violence, the importance of listening and believing those who feel threatened, and how crucial forensic science is in holding people accountable.
We really saw that dedication from the investigators and those forensic experts. They had so many challenges, but they never gave up.
Yeah, their persistence is inspiring.
It is.
Even when it seems impossible, we can't give up on finding the truth.
And even the most careful killer, they always leave a trace.
Right, some little detail that unravels the whole thing.
Richard Crafts thought he could get away with it, erase everything.
He underestimated the power of science and the determination of those fighting for justice.
That's for sure. So if there's one thing you want our listeners to take away from this case, what would it be?
Remember Helle, remember her story, her warning, and remember that we all have a part to play in preventing this kind of violence.
Right.
If you see something, say something. If someone tells you they're afraid, listen to them, believe them. You could make all the difference.
That's powerful. Thank you for taking us through this deep dive. It's a story that really stays with you.
It does.
Thank you for listening to Justice for the Souls podcast.